Um, we will start the meeting. Welcome, everybody. Did everybody have a chance to read the minutes?
Yes.
Yes,
That
Yes.
we accept them.
Okay. A second,
I'll second.
second,
and all in favor? Yes.
aye,
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, John Reeves, I am sorry to see, we are all sorry to see him have to leave, but he had very good reasons. He has a busy life, and at some point in the future, he would like to rejoin, which would be great, but I don't think it'll be imminently. And I did send him, I didn't send it to all, but I wrote him back a letter thanking him for his time with us, that I was sorry to see him go. And one thing he would like to do is to sort of keep in touch with me and meet from time to time, have a cup of coffee and just exchange thoughts, which we will do. I'm going to skip ahead to the Green Expo for now because so one of the things, of course, that John was doing very enthusiastically was managing the Green Expo last year with charity, which will not happen this year. The managing part.
I was gonna say.
The expo will go on without him. So I did reach out to Vanessa Lamoureux almost immediately after John said he couldn't do this. And just asked her, anyway, she has assured me that we will have the same spot that we had last year in the school. And that's as far as I've got.
Okay.
And that we're on board to be part of the expo this year. So the next thing I'm going to do is just send out a save the date, which I'll do today or tomorrow to all the participants from last year. Because sometimes they like to put it on their calendar for the summer, and I want to get on their calendar. Like, yeah.
So does Jonathan's spreadsheet, does it have all the sort of the names of the exhibitors, emails, all
I believe it
that?
does.
Okay,
I have to check my emails, and if I don't, I'm just gonna ask them to send it to me.
yeah,
So I have all that.
okay.
But I believe
Yeah, I
I
have to
do.
check. I don't know if I still have that either.
And I know last year he did the ad for the reporter because I no longer have Photoshop. But I don't know if the, I don't know what,
Platform you use?
platform, yes, what he used, if it's something that I can use. Anyway, that's,
It's also possible that we could we could ask them to, if it's not a major change, if we just want to change the date,
change dates.
we might just be able to get them
Change
to
dates
do
and a few
it.
names. Yeah. It took a while to go back and forth last year. Anyway, the good thing is the road signs, we can still use this year and just get stickers that change the date.
Mhm.
Which is great. So that's as far as, so again, as last year, if anybody has, actually what I'll do is I'll send out the list of who came last year as a refresher, and then everybody take a look, and then if there's anybody else you can think of that knew that you'd like to come this year, just send me who you would like to come. Okay, that's that. ETIP, we're meeting, you're all meeting next Wednesday?
We are?
Yes.
Without you?
Yeah, without me. I don't, unless you want to delay it another week.
Jim,
Yeah,
sent out that Meet Me app for us to sign up. You saw that?
no, wait, I'm sorry, say it again.
Yeah.
Brian and Kate agreed that it didn't make sense to try to meet without you, and that we also need some time to get PSE and G on board.
It would
It
make
would
sense.
not make
Okay,
sense.
fine.
And we also need to get PSE and G at that meeting.
Uh-huh,
And so they sent an email out last week with what's called a meet me for all of us. We were all supposed to have responded by actually yesterday on dates that we could meet.
Okay.
And then the other part of that email was that one of us needs to get with PSE&G.
Yeah, I'm reaching out to them.
Are you? Oh,
No,
great.
that's great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was late this morning. I just saw that the Go Meet Me, I forgot to fill it out earlier. And so that's what it's a little tricky to do on a cell phone. So anyway, but
Yeah,
yeah,
there was
I think they
there
were
were-
proposing we meet on the 30th.
Yeah, it looked like, well, it looked, when I did the meet me, it looked like May 2nd was the best date.
Yeah,
Okay, I apologize.
But that's when I did it last night, so I don't know who's, that was like 6 people at that point. I can't remember who was missing.
Sorry.
Yeah, that may also be subject to PSE&G schedule if
Exactly.
we really want them.
Yeah, no, obviously, yeah.
Okay. All right, I apologize. I'm firm here. On that. That only.
Only, that is the only email you
Speak
missed.
on everything else.
Okay, so I will, when I get home after the meeting, I will do that.
well,
Okay, anything else about ETIP? Guess not.
Yeah, comments to do on that last iteration of the deck by when? Do we know?
Just before the meeting, I think. I don't think they're necessarily planning to revise it again unless we have something.
No, we already kind of did that, Steve. I think Don was supplying
Yeah,
some information.
yeah. I made some comments previously on the previous iteration. I think, I didn't want to get into there were 1 or 2 typographical or spelling errors, but so this is basically the last revision.
Yep, we hope so.
Yes.
Okay.
And then anything that we want to customize or fix, we can do on our own. That's how I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I may go through it again if I have time next week, and if there's anything that jumps out at me, I'll send it along to Brian, and he can, make the judgment. But basically, what we've got now is what we've got.
Yes, but again, if you want to take another look and you have comments, do so.
Yeah, if we have till the end of the month, it may make sense to do that.
Yes, I mean, everybody should take a look, just if anything pops out. It's just, let's do it all at once now and just send me your comments, maybe, if there are going to be a bunch of them, send them all to me, and then I can send them all at once. I think it's easier for people to get one message versus 4. Okay, anything else about ETIP? Okay, this may be a short meeting. Community solar, actually this is on here, but kind of talked about this last week. And that was last meeting, which was the idea of inviting Lynn, but we decided that we were going to do the ETIP presentations and then invite Lynn after that. So the town board was kind of up to speed with all the different things that we've been working with and thinking about.
Does that make sense? You think the attention span is there for 2 meetings?
I think so. I think if we do like a series, I think that'll work.
Like if we
Because the
maybe,
ETIP's kind of like an overview,
Mhm.
and then Lynn is kind of really specific to like community solar that's happening on the east end.
Mhm.
So it might be good to do the overview first and then go into specific topics.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. Otherwise she'll be coming in and then we'll be working backwards.
right.
And I think, if we could, we'll have to think about this, but when we get everything, the final stuff from ETIP, but how many presentations are we looking at? Are we looking at 2? Are we looking at 3? We'll have to look at the material and figure out how can we boil down into these sort of specific
Mhm.
entities and then think of the time
Mhm.
for each one. Obviously, we can't do 45-minute presentations.
You might lose some people.
Yeah, no, ideally, we could keep them to like 15 minutes,
Yeah.
and then allow for questions.
Mhm. Yeah, each one we do though, after the first one, we should start with just the overview of the goals of ETIP and
Mhm.
how, you know, communities or whatever we're about to talk to fits in with
Like
it.
a refresher each week.
Maybe not even a refresher, maybe just, you know, as you remember from when we,
Yes.
you know, these are the 4 goals, we're now gonna talk about
Yes.
goal number 1.
Yes. Yes, that would be a very good idea. Okay. Okay, do we have?
I have a question
Yeah,
about
okay.
the Perfect Earth project that we've been trying to talk to Doug
Yes.
about. So my impression from reading the material
Mhm.
and from what you told us about your meeting with Doug is that this is a group that sort of comes in with a presentation already set up that they do,
Well,
and that they've sort of got the landscapers lined up already, is that right?
well, when we talked about this last week, you sort of brought up a good point. Well, actually, let's back up. They did an event in, whenever it was, a month or so ago, in the Hamptons, Bridgehampton, I forget where it was, doesn't matter,
Yeah.
Springs. And that was something they set up for that one-time event. Doug was really impressed and thought it'd be great to have them come here and duplicate the event. But when I was talking to Doug about it initially, he seemed to imply that he would want me to be somehow on a panel, I think. But then you had also added sort of the same idea that it'd be good to have somebody from Shelter Island on the panel.
Or maybe even mostly people from Shelter Island. In other words, I don't know how, I mean, I'm not sure how it would go down to have, you know, the Perfect Earth Project and all of the landscapers who are
Mhm.
there are from the South Fork, you know, I mean, I'm not sure I would go to that, you know,
No, I agree. So I think that has to be worked out.
okay.
Um,
And it wasn't clear to me whether Doug understood that and whether the Perfect Earth, Tim Wheeler from Perfect Earth understood that. Because, you know, we're already talking about getting on their schedule, or Doug's talking about getting on their schedule, and I'm not there yet.
No, we've tried to meet with Doug this past week, but he could not be here.
Well, it was my fault because I had a baby that went for a week, so.
Well, that is true.
That threatened to be born for over a week.
Couldn't make up its mind.
Blame on Charlotte?
Charlotte, it's all Charlotte's fault.
Charlotte's fault.
Mhm,
Already a troublemaker.
mhm.
Yeah, we need to meet with Doug and talk about all of this
Yeah,
before actually.
yeah, or maybe even just, I mean, if we can't, you know, yeah, I guess, I don't know if we're trying to meet with him tomorrow or something, but
I was
we'll,
hoping we could meet tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon.
yeah, or maybe I'll just, you know, call him and say, Doug, you know, this came up in the meeting, and before we go too far with with Tim Wheeler, we should just make sure everybody understands that we're not, you know, we're not at the point of scheduling. Do you think it's enough? Here's a question. Is it enough if you're on the panel and we don't have one of the commercial landscapers from Shelter Island?
Well, we also talked about someone like Abby Lawless.
Yeah, I know. And who does Buttercup? Is that a local person?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They also use native plants, don't they?
I'm not sure that Vicky does,
Oh, maybe not. Okay.
but I know that because Abby collaborated with Edwina for many years.
Yeah, okay. So I think, you know, basically what we should, you know, it seems like a good idea to me if,
But it
you know,
should be
you and Abby could be on the panel, basically.
It should be customized for us.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think, you know, again, we just need to meet with Doug and, but when I get home, I can send him an email and just say, before we jump into doing something formally with Tim Wheeler,
Mm-hmm.
we need to talk about this first.
Yeah, or I can tell them.
You wanna do that?
Yeah, I'll do it.
You do that,
I'll do that.
okay.
So I have a question. I don't know who knows the answer to this, maybe somebody on the panel. Are our irrigation and sort of watering and rules about putting in new plantings different from the rules in, say, Springs and Southampton and East Hampton?
I would think so. I mean, they're based on our town code and our codes are not the same, you know, so I don't
Right.
know what the regulations are in Southampton or Springs. I know that, I mean, there are some issues over in Southampton with people watering like crazy. We, I
Right.
think, have more restrictions than they do.
We have more than they do?
I think we have more
Mhm.
restrictions.
So one thing I think we'd have to be really on top of before anything like this is what our, especially if they're gonna be talking from a South Fork perspective, I think we need to,
Right.
sort of make sure that that's understood by everybody on the panel and,
The
No,
the
we-
WAC just finished like a whole pamphlet on our irrigation laws and regulations.
Not finished yet.
not
Well,
finished
working
yet.
on it. It's getting there. So that could be helpful to use to and share with them.
Good.
I'm just waiting for it's going to when's the WAC meeting on Monday?
It's Monday, yeah, the 21st.
Okay, because I heard from a member of the subcommittee,
Okay.
and essentially I don't want to do any final tweaking on the brochure until the WAC is signed off on the language.
Smart. Don't waste your time.
I don't want to waste my time.
Exactly. All right.
But yes, you're right. And actually, that is part of the information is in the brochure about alternative landscapes, which is
Yeah.
similar to what was in the fertilizer brochure.
Yeah, no, I remember that was covered in the fertilizer brochure.
But that's-
But I guess, I mean, we need to make sure that whatever, if we're doing a presentation, it's Shelter Islanded.
It's the right information.
All of that. Okay. Anything else that anybody would like to bring up
On this subject,
on any subject?
okay, I may have missed a meeting or something, but I recall, not too long ago, we were talking about having a meeting with, I believe, two, tidal power companies. Do we know where that stands?
Is this the company that reached out to us?
Yeah, there's a company that reached out to us, and then there was a
Verdant.
company that was working in the area as well. I don't recall the name.
In Verdant?
Well, Verdant is the one that reached out to us, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and then there was another one.
The other one. I
Remember.
don't remember the other one.
I don't have it right now, but I can do some research. They were making some inquiries, I believe, on the east end or
That was Verdant.
you know,
Verdant was doing that, and they were looking at the,
yeah. Yes, Verdant, but I don't know, I guess it may have come up with ETIP. They may have been doing some work up in Maine.
they were doing work.
Does anyone else recall that?
Yes, and you were interested, you were going back and forth with either Kate or somebody else about the project up in Maine. And you
Yeah,
wanted-
so
you
there
wanted-
are at least two tidal companies actively working the East Coast or the Northeast Coast. But I know that Verdant had reached out to us, and I thought we were planning a meeting, and I had missed the meeting, so I didn't know if anything had gone forward with that.
We sort of put that aside, but if you want us to meet with, if the committee wants to meet with Verdant again, in my last sort of exchange with them, they wanted to have questions from us about, I guess, about what they're doing ahead of time. They want to have sort of a pre-meeting before they met with us.
Well, I would say my reaction to that would be, since we're coming to a conclusion with ETIP, and we want to engage with the council, this is kind of an important, period for us. And I think it can probably wait until later in the spring. Um, that would be my response to you. Anyone else feel differently?
I'm wondering if maybe it would be helpful to send them a list of questions ahead of time. Maybe that would serve their needs if they want to know what it is we want to talk about.
I'm sorry, Christina, a list of what?
We're having trouble hearing you.
Questions, the
Questions.
questions.
Sorry, questions. I'm still on the metro, so it's really noisy here.
Okay.
Yeah, just a list of questions outlining what it is we're interested to talk to them about.
Okay.
Yeah, and we can work on that. I
Right.
don't see it that it's particularly urgent at this point. That's why I suggested moving this back until later in the spring,
Yeah,
after, in another month or so.
yeah, it's only gonna distract from our main goals. We should not spend time on this right now.
I mean, I think we can do, to your other interest, Steve, is we should reach out to the other community in Maine, or two communities that are trying to tap into tidal power, and just see what their experience is and who the companies are and all of that, just as part of our research in this area.
Yeah, and I think Island Institute, we can dialogue with Island Institute or through Island Institute on that. Our relationship, correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, our relationship with Island Institute will continue even after our participation with ETIP closes out. Is that true?
I think so, because one of the things I asked Kate was, I said it would be helpful, I think, for us, is to be able to, forget how she was gonna do this, but essentially that we could contact some of the other communities.
Well, I think we can still participate in that Zoom that they have regularly, which I confess I have not gone to in several months. And maybe I should start doing that again, because
But I think.
I went to one and it was kind of interesting, although there was a lot of complaining. There was.
Yeah, I went to one also, and it was sparsely attended. But
Yeah, sparsely
I had the
attended
same
and lots of
experience.
Vetchers, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
but I think ideally, the way I was looking at it is that we could, for instance, Block Island, we could check in with Block Island and see what initiatives they're pursuing, how are they doing it?
It
how's going?
would be a really good thing to raise at that, like instead of going to one of those and just listening to the kvetching, it would probably be a good forum for saying, we didn't get great input on title, it didn't look that feasible, but we're interested in what you're seeing. Another resource, Steve, you probably have already done this, but there's a publication, as an e-publication that Island Institute puts out. It's edited by Tom Groening, and you can subscribe to it. And the newsletter talks about projects like this, including title projects for all of the Island Institute members. And they're really interesting, and it's journalism, basically. It's not overly scientific, but it would certainly clue us into where these projects are going on and what the status of them is.
Do you want to send a link to everybody?
Yeah, like they just sent one around that was super interesting to me, because it was about, it's called The Working Waterfront, this one, and it was about Maine scallops and sort of the effective fishing in the environment, and specifically their scalloping. These are sea scallops that they were.
yeah, well, I'm a big fan of scalps. Maybe you can send me a
I'm gonna
link.
send the
there.
latest issue to all of you. How
That
about
would be
that?
great.
Great. Yeah, I would only add that I believe it's not Block Island, but there's another large island that's in the next group of ETIP participants out here on on the East Coast, and it's a New York territory island.
Fishers?
Fisher
Sorry?
Island?
Fisher's Island, yes, thank you. And so at some point in the not too distant future, we may want to reach out to them and, you know, welcome
Oh.
aboard
Let's
and
get on our bicycles and go over there.
Again, I did talk to Kate, about this, and it's something she's sort of working on. That we can keep
Okay, good.
tabs on the other communities. So
Yeah.
when our time at the ETIP ends, we can still keep in touch with the Island Institute, and we can also be in touch with some of the communities.
including Fishers. Yeah, my experience with Fishers is they tend to be a little, how shall I put it, secretive or a little, you know, closed mouthed about what they do. I've been in there a number of times, but that would be helpful. Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yep, but Kate is thinking about this. Okay, so I'm not gonna do anything with Verdant at the moment.
Right. And I'll look into this other company. I had read what they were doing up there in Maine. And yeah, there's, you know, as with all technologies and now with the present political situation, there are stops and starts and stops and starts. You may have read that that the Equinor project off of New York has been halted. So, you know, but we have to keep pushing ahead.
But I think, you know, if we're gonna talk about, if we're gonna do this or not, when we do our presentations, if we're gonna sort of, at the little sidebar, mention tidal power. But if we want to include tidal power, not a huge emphasis right now, in the presentation, it certainly wouldn't hurt to just, which, you know, one of us can do, under their charity, and just, or you, Steve, however you want to do this, we could make contact with the main communities that are doing this, just so that we can say the main community, these communities in Maine are doing this, and this is how it's going or not going. Or not, we can talk
Yeah,
about.
well, that's what I thought that I would do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I had read about what they had done, but you're right. It may be better to have some actual vocal contact with them, and you know, get their input, maybe from someone who's been directly involved.
Yeah, always, I'm
Take
sure
it from there.
Yep. Anyway, but we can think about that. Whether how deep we want to get into tidal power when we do the presentations or not.
No pun intended.
Deep tidal.
Oh.
You didn't even recognize it.
Which often happens.
You're so funny, we're
He's
just
lost his sense of humor, we're doomed.
Yeah, it really is weird.
The day I lose my sense of humor, I'm in trouble.
We're all in trouble.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
Gotta have a sense of humor, especially these days.
Oh, boy.
Dang.
Yeah.
um,
So,
okay.
Tim, I have just another issue, maybe an item to raise, just a question, really.
Yes, please
Do we have a small group formed to organize the solar tour that we're talking about doing this summer? You know, of the tour of people's houses. I'm happy to help with that.
Okay, so we're gonna have a Green Expo, which is in one location. So what do we want to do? We brought this up and discussed the idea several times, but I don't see that happening in the same day as the Green Expo. So
No, that would be too much. It would be a
Too much.
separate standalone thing.
it'd be
Yeah.
too much for us and it wouldn't work. So what do we want to do?
We could
Well, we
offer
should
it
be-
at the expo and then have the tours subsequent to the expo.
I think we should do it before, and then at the expo, try to make sure that there are solar suppliers there, so that, you know, the tour would be to sort of let people know what's possible, let them look at some installed, Christine, I think that's what you were talking about, right? Sort of, giving people like a house tour. like,
That's
you know,
right.
Yeah.
That's right. And or a rooftop tour if that's at all possible. That's what we've
Right,
done here in
right.
Washington.
And that would be to kind of whet people's appetite and get them thinking about, okay, yeah, I have a south facing roof with not too many trees, whatever. And then at the expo, it would actually be a talking point with these solar suppliers to be able to say, we had X number of people do these tours and they're, some of them are now thinking about, going ahead and.
Actually, it would be a carrot
Right.
for them to come to the
It would be a
expo.
carrot for them.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say, carrot.
Yes.
Yeah,
No, that's
That is the
that's a
word.
great idea.
Carrot.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree that it's a great idea. I just, the only thing I would say is, at the Green Expo is where you're going to get people who would be interested in doing that tour. How do we generate interest in the tour prior to the expo? I think that's the question then.
We have
Well,
ways.
we'll have to advertise it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tell
but
people about it.
I mean, town.
yeah, I think we'd get enough people. I would be a little bit worried. I mean, I agree with Steve. I think, it's one way to get people interested, but the expo's a little late in the summer to try to organize a solar tour and then have follow up with the developers. So I think maybe having the tour earlier in the summer, maybe in July, that would give us enough time to get the word out to. I don't know. I guess have to
Yeah,
look at the
no,
calendars and see what else going on. But
I think we have a really great story to tell in terms of, the analysis that we've gotten from our ETIP involvement, which is really pointing to the benefit of a lot of, domestic uptake of solar in our community, that could really do a lot of good. It could save people a lot of money. And that's a story that we can tell. And I think that would probably interest some people in going on the tour.
yeah, I agree.
Christina, did you
The
say
question is, how do we get that message out and when do we get that
Well,
message out?
so
Well,
we work
so-
on that?
I'll write an article, Steve. How's that?
Fine.
that sounds great. And I think, when we
Does.
when
Yeah.
we do, as you just pointed out, Charity, I think when we do the the presentations, we can mention it because it's
Yes.
one of the follow-ups, right? And
Yeah.
then we can have your article, we can all be talking about it. So word of mouth, we can put up little flyers. I'm happy to work on a flyer, do that a lot now these days. Anyway, I think we can get the word out. I think it'll be quite, what might be interesting is if what people did here in DC was to form what's now become a national organization. It was called DC Sun, Solar United Neighbors. Now it's Solar United Neighbors. It's all over the country. And it's a way for people to come together to put up, get like 8 households together and somebody, in the organization brokers a contract. They put out for bid, they get the bids in, they review them. Everybody agrees to go along with whoever the contractor is that's chosen. And then that contractor, just by having a bulk purchase of the panels, reduces everybody's cost by 30% off the top. And then you've got whatever, local, you're shaking your head, Steve, but it's true. They've been doing this now for a long time, quite a few years.
Yeah.
And they've had solar. I went on one of the early solar tours because we've had solar up on our roof here in DC since 2012. Anyway, it's been a very, very successful model and operation. I'm not saying we have to do that. If, people could just do it separately, maybe that's what they would prefer. But there are ways to organize and help people do this. And we could think about like different levels of support that we might want to provide from, providing the information to just, making people available to talk about their experience kind of thing, and then on up. So I'm happy to talk to DC Sun and get a little bit more information about how they, like what's available in terms of support from them, if that's at all useful, or just poke around and see what they've got on their website to help us with this.
That sounds really
Yeah, I
interesting.
think I think that's great. Don't misinterpret my head shaking. It was only the 30% number
No, I
going
know,
forward.
but
Yeah.
oh, no. That was just from bulk purchases. I mean, yeah, maybe it's changed now since the prices have dropped so much, but
Well,
yeah.
right. Bulk purchases requires obviously the cooperation of the contract participating contractors. That's all I'm getting at.
Right.
Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah, participation and organization of these contractors, and that's another
Mhm.
stage in this project.
Yeah, and it may be that here in DC, we've got so many solar contractors because there's such a big market for it that it's going to be a different scene. But anyway.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
that competitive here. Tim, what were you gonna say?
A couple of things. One is, the town also has, Facebook and Instagram. So we can use the town to get out the message about the tour. The other thing I want to say about getting homes, to do a group solar thing is Lynn has already done this. She was doing this 2 years ago. She tried to get us on board with their effort to piggyback onto their effort. And she came to a Green Expo one year with that sole purpose. So Lynn has done all this.
great.
We can certainly tap into what she has done.
Good. Another idea for, we could talk to Terry Lucas about doing a Friday night dialogue prior to the tour with maybe one particularly great story of solar. I don't know, if we could, pick one and have someone come and talk about their solar journey, and then a week or so later have the tour, as a way of demonstrating what they talked about. Just an idea.
That sounds like a great idea.
I don't know if,
I think the library's calendar is getting pretty full.
yeah, it's getting
They're
full,
booked for
yeah.
the summer, but
Maybe booked
yeah.
for the summer, yeah.
We'll piggyback.
Could we do
Yeah.
we do something at the Presbyterian Church? I mean, is that what
Maybe,
you
or
were
we could do
thinking?
we could probably do something at the History Center,
Uh-huh.
yeah, there are other venues.
Okay, but we can, anyway, I think it's a great idea and we can get the word out. And so I think we need to, think of how many houses we have and who is willing to do this.
How many do we have?
Don, do you have a idea? We have
Sarah's hand is up.
Sarah, right? Sarah, would you be interested in doing this?
Hi, guys. I'm sure that Peter would be open to that. I also just wanted to suggest we could sign people up at the farmer's market if the History Center is amenable, because they're starting up this weekend already.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And perhaps you already know, their house tour is on June 7th this
Yeah.
year with the views, island views.
Yes. Yes.
So one of the things I was just thinking is the first thing we need to do is get a complete calendar of events for this summer. So we can try to schedule it when we're not overlapping with some other major thing.
Well, that's already impossible. We will definitely
Yeah.
overlap with something.
Coordinate with a lake event.
Yes.
Maybe like double down on the house tour. Big views and solar.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think 10K weekend is a great one because the event actually happens in the late afternoon. And so there are a lot of people on the island, but they don't really have anything. I mean, they have things to do, obviously, but the big event is in the evening when we wouldn't be doing this.
Well, we just have to think about this. I mean, Christina's correct. We need to look at all the events and figure out. We could do it at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Great idea, Tim.
I know, I'm up.
I could also propose that when the Sylvester Manor Farm stand opens, or a little bit later in June when the CSA starts up, that the committee could have a table there to sign people up for a tour.
Okay. We do it also at the farmers market. Okay.
Jim, I hate to do this, but can I ask another question, unrelated to solar? So the energy audits, as you know, I tried mightily to work through the PSE&G information on trying to get an energy audit for my own home. I called all the listings within 50 miles. Everybody told me basically no. I signed up for some sort of NYSERDA information on energy audits, and I actually just got that packet the other day. And what it appears to be is a questionnaire that I fill out either on paper or online, that about, with specifics about my home, and then they would arrange an energy audit is what they say. But there's apparently there is an income verification issue. Like if you make too much money, maybe you're not allowed to do it this way. So I'm not really sure where to go with this. And I'm not sure that I'm really getting, I mean, maybe I just need to try again with the contractors within 50 miles.
I wonder if a question to ask them would be, say, if we had X number of if we could sign up a group to make it worth your coming onto the island to do this, how big would the group have to, first of all, is that possible? And secondly, if so, how big would the group have to be? And then if they say yes to that, then we could use our signing people up for the solar thing to say, oh, here, if you're interested, here are some potential dates for, I have to coordinate all this with the energy efficiency people,
Yeah.
but you could sign up, and if we get enough of a
So
group
Christine,
together.
this would be a question for the contract, for the solar supply, the people who do the energy audits.
Exactly.
Yeah, not for NYSERDA or PSE.
No. It's the energy audit people, because I think they don't want to come out onto the island for like one household, and maybe that household would say, oh yeah, maybe we'll have you do the work, and maybe not. So, it's
I have a suggestion. When I went to the Ag Energy Efficiency and Renewables field trip last month, I met a bunch of different people who are led by a new program at Cornell Cooperative Extension. It's the Smart Energy Choices program of CCE. And they are the NYSERDA Regional Clean Energy Hub for the Long Island region. And Tim and Charity, I think I sent you the contact information, licleanenergy@cornell.edu. Augie Ruckdeschel is the CCE lead, but their whole, I'm holding their little brochure here. Their whole purpose is to overcome this kind of, obstacle to people accessing the tools that they need. And they're an advocacy and education entity within Cornell, and they're made up of a combination of people representing the vendors, PSEG, NGOs, and I think that's a really good next stop for this particular issue, that Shelter Island is, having a hard time finding out how to be served for something as simple as a home energy audit. I think I also sent you the one guy who told me he would do it, home efficiency experts, Mark Hoffman. I wrote to him, I didn't hear back. So that's not encouraging, but there's some tools. This Long Island Clean Energy Hub is a new body that should be able to help us. And maybe they want to come to the expo. So I don't know if one of you wants to take on the lead with them. They also have a website, lismartenergychoices.org is their very own website, lismartenergychoices.org.
Okay, so I'm going to follow up with Long Island Clean Energy Hub, and the second, the name of the contractor,
Mark
Hoffman at where?
Home Energy.
The website is homeefficiencyexperts.com. And they're based in Ronkonkoma. homeefficiencyexperts.com, but you're all, it's all very clear that this is driven by the economics. The PSEG guy who was there told me that, or he was with the TRC consultant to PSEG that handles their rebate program. But anyway, he told me that these firms do this as a marketing strategy,
Yeah,
and
sure.
their metrics show that about 30% of the audits lead to the contractor being hired. So it's, I don't know if that's a high percentage or a low percentage or what, but
I was gonna,
they do, we have to find, as you're all pointing out, we have to find the specific contractors who are willing to make the trip. So, but I do think
I
that
was-
going to Augie and the new program at Cornell, if we identify an issue for them, such as this one, that they can't get people to come to Shelter Island, that's their whole mandate now, is to figure out how to help with that kind of thing.
Mhm. Good.
Could this
yeah,
be something,
can we,
Lynn?
when we engage in this discussion about energy audits, and we use that term energy audits, let's all keep in mind that that term has come to mean a lot of things and a lot of levels of service. Okay, does it involve a blower door test? So let's be careful about when we're talking with people, whether it's islanders or contractors, about energy audits. We need to know what the specifics are. When I started in the utility energy business 45 years ago, energy audits were overseen by the utility and were very carefully specified. In fact, the auditors had to be qualified, but it has since come to mean a lot of different things. And yes, Sarah's right that a large percentage of so-called energy audits basically are just encouraging, let me put it that way, encouraging homeowners to hire the contractor to do certain specific measures.
The other thing, Charity,
Just wanted to throw that in from my experience.
we also should talk to Lynn.
Presumably there were some home energy audits involved in, there's
Well, I
some
mean, there's-
solar,
I mean,
for those solar
no, it's
projects.
just she may have information about on their end,
Mhm.
what they've done with audits. She just may have some ideas, that's all.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, I've talked to her in the past before I had work done on my house in a so-called energy audit. And it is not clear. It is not clear. So, that's just something for us to keep in mind as we go forward. That's all.
Okay,
We use that term energy audit, and it can mean any number of things now.
okay. Bless you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything else before anybody have anything else before I ask we have Pam Demarest visiting today.
Hi, Pam.
Anybody have anything else they want to bring up? Hi, Pam. Do you have any questions,
No,
comments?
I have no questions, but thanks. It's great information and a lot of resources available to get information on options for energy use and the proper things that we can do going forward to try to save the bottom line on our on our energy use. I really appreciate your meetings. Thanks very much.
Great. Meg,
Yes.
could we do, like we have 10 minutes left. I want to bring up something, but I don't want to do it
Is it a
publicly.
personnel matter?
No, actually, it's something, well, I could bring that up too, but it's something else actually, that sort of in my mind.
An executive session topic?
Yeah.
You can make a motion to go into an executive session.
Okay, everyone, I'm gonna make a motion to go into an executive session for the last 10 minutes. I just want to bring up a point, something.
Do you need a
So,
motion to do that?
yes, have a second? Charity?
I
I'll
second.
second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay,
Aye.
thank you.
Sarah, yeah.